Hello, today's March 15th, 2025. I'm doing a review on this HJM bike. It is a Trihauler Pro. I guess you could call it a cargo trike. I bought it in September. Just getting ready to hit 3,500 miles and probably just a few more nights. And I wanted to go ahead and do a review, a real comprehensive review of everything that's been going on with this since I bought it. And I have a real obsession with riding. I ride almost 25 miles a night. And I just wanted to go ahead and put this out there for everything that's been going on. But first off, I'll go ahead and say that I've got a couple of bad lumbar in my back, so there's hardly any suspension on this bike, and I prefer about 6 to 10 pounds of air in these back tires. I only run about 15 in the front. Now, there is a suspension in the front, but it only has approximately 2 inches of travel. So I run these tires a little on the low air side to get a little spring action out of them. So it helps my back. I'm 69 years old, definitely obsessed with riding. So anyway, also from one of the other bicycles that I built, this is my 4th e-bike. I guess I built 3. I had put the seat together. It's a Harley Davidson. It's basically a Harley Davidson seat that is attached to a Schwinn bicycle seat by bolts and screws or whatever, and it gives me 4 extra inches of foam padding for my back. Again, my back, everything is about my back. So now for the nitty-gritty. At 1,000 miles, these rear spokes had to be adjusted. At 2,000 miles, these rear spokes needed to be adjusted. So basically, you can start to hear it. I call it tweaking. You can hear the spokes will go tweak. And when you hear that a few times, then you go ahead and, with your spoke wrench, just give it one full 360-degree turn on each spoke. You could hear them when you do that. So basically, one full turn, 360 degrees at approximately 1,000 miles, or when you hear the tweak sound on these spokes. I've had spoke issues on a lot of bicycles. I'm very happy with these. Tricycles have a problem with going up certain driveways or curbs or something like that, and if they don't go completely evenly, it has a tendency to break rear spokes. This is great. Haven't had a single problem with it. So anyway, at 2,000 miles, I had to do the same thing again. The spokes had to be adjusted. So I just did again one 360-degree adjustment on each spoke with a spoke wrench. You know, carefully watching that. You could watch how many turns you make. But that's great. I think they're 12 millimeter, or yeah, 12 millimeter on the spoke, or number 12s rather. The fronts haven't been adjusted yet. I just started to hear a couple of tweaks here in the last week or so, so I'm looking at probably another couple of 100 miles doing my first front wheel spoke adjustment. But all in all, that part's great. And we'll come up to the next part of any maintenance that we have had to do. The chain adjustments on the motor. Now I did not put this through the wash like I guess I should have. You know, go ahead and do a review on a bicycle or a tricycle that is so completely clean that it looks like it just came out of the box. No, I figured I'd go ahead and do it for real. So anyway, this main motor chain has had to be adjusted 2 times. And now of course that's that whole rear end that needs to be moved. 1, 2, 3 bolts on this side, there's 3 bolts on that side that do the actual attachment of the frame to the rear end. So I've had to adjust this chain 2 times, and we're actually starting to get pretty close. But the only thing is we're just about out of adjustment. So I'm going to flip this over just to show you guys. This is one way to do your maintenance. Don't be nervous about throwing this over on its side. I'm a bicycle tech, so it hurts it not at all. It can certainly get you into seeing. Now you can see, let me show you something here in my hand. So the adjusters came out and they were only approximately 1.5 inches long. These are from the factory, 1.5 inches long, and then they had a lock nut on them. So what turned out is that the very first adjustment that I ever did took all the adjustment. So when it was time to do my second adjustment, it's easy enough, not a big deal. Just go up to Home Depot or something like that. When it's time to adjust this chain, just go to Home Depot and just go ahead and replace these bolts with, I believe it's a M6, which means metric 6 thread. Could be M8, but I think it's a M6. And go ahead and just buy you 2-inch long ones with 2 nuts. I never did run that nut down, lock nut. But go ahead and just buy you a couple. Next time you find yourself at Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever the best hardware store that you shop at, go ahead and replace them so that when it's time to do the adjustment, you can actually do it. So I'm not really sure. I'm just about due for an adjustment again. Of course, I wouldn't want to tell very many people, but I'm thinking about going ahead and replacing this sprocket here and putting another larger sprocket on there, which would of course change the gearing. Might be a little slower on the takeoff, but it'll give a high-end, top-end speed if I do that. But it looks like I'm going to have to replace this chain. It's starting to get a little loose, and there's not going to be a lot more adjustment left. So I'm going to be looking into that. And like I said, I did not put the lock, I didn't clap the lock nut all the way down after I did the adjustment. And then another thing that I would say, that I don't know if it's in the manual or anything, but when you do the adjustment of this rear end, I do my measurements from the frame to the crank. I don't just count threads, because if it's off just the very slightest bit, it'll be off center. So basically I run a ruler from a measuring point to the middle of the crank. So I take like a long adjustment, of maybe a 22-inch long adjustment, or measurement rather. But other than that, I've only got a couple of complaints with it. Of course, one of the first things I said the very first day I bought it was there's no cruise control. So of course I made an an opposite spring. So basically I'll set mine up in, just say high, 50, I just go 50%. It still gives the motor 100%. And then I just use this here as my cruise control. Very easy for me to do. Just basically a counteracting spring. I can go up or down while I'm cruising. My normal cruising speed is actually 11.6 miles per hour. I ride usually about close to 25 miles a night at 11.5 miles an hour. Just lets me see the world. Keeps my from having to have a whole lot of hanging on or anything like that. So you know, it's a nice slow speed. Gives me, let's see, if I'm doing 11.5, I can do 32 miles and then get home and still have 10% battery power left. And then of course here's that greatest headlight that I've ever had on a bicycle before. It is one that you have to buy separately, but it is great. I bought tires already just because I'm that guy. I'm that antsy person, so I can see that there's some wear. I don't know how close you can really see, but there's some wear. And then I'll go all through that. When I do decide to do the tire change, I'll go ahead and give some pointers or some secrets to how these tires are going to be the liners for the new tires. The new tires I picked up already are 4.5 inches wide in the back, 4.25 inches wide in the front, with more of a street tread. Now, these are fine, except they sting a little bit. As you can see, I've done a little bit of wear on them. Not completely down, but it's getting close. The not having any issues with any brakes or anything, so I haven't even checked to see how much longer I have on these brake pads, but the brake pads seem to be holding up pretty good. Of course, you can see how I have my riser set up, so I wanted to have the highest handlebar setting as I could. This is one reason why they don't mount the handlebars from the factory, is because of all these settings down in here for a person's height. So a short person can lower that thing way down to here and lower the seat way down. But again, like I say, I go ahead and put the seat back on here just so that we can get all the video shares or, you know, things with the factory. But I tell you what, this thing right here, Harley Davidson, boy, that thing saves my back. You would not believe how bad my back is. But that makes all the difference in the world. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and attach a little bit of movement onto this video. I'm not sure exactly how much more I wanted on it or any of that mess, but I definitely wanted to get a review on this bike I'm really happy with. Of course, you know, I really miss my other bikes too, so I just have to take over 1 second and show you that, all right, I'm replacing the motor on this one too. So this is the one that I had that the motor failed on. This is the one that I decided, you know what, I think I'll go ahead and buy a TRIKE. But as I ride the TRIKE and I see certain hills, or I see certain ditches, or I see certain things, it's like, man, I want to go there real bad. And I'm not real chancy with this TRIKE. But anyway, that's the lowdown on the HJMBIKE Trihauler Pro Cargo TRIKE. Oh, I guess one of the things is I lost these two cups. The little cap that goes in the end. I think that one of them popped out the very first month, and I think it took 3 months for the second one to pop out. But you know what? If that's the biggest issue, then you know what? That is not an issue. That is not an issue at all. This basket here, you know, after so many miles of riding, you find certain things that I think people put out purposely for me. I found this sitting right in the middle of a sidewalk on one of the sidewalk paths that I ride. And it almost reminded me that somebody sat that out there purposely just for me. And I just threw a couple of tie wraps in it. So, of course, the Pro comes with these front and rear baskets. So I just put a basket in the basket. Oh, by the way, the other day I was riding. I had to go up to the local shop, and I don't ride during the day very often. But anyway, on my way back, there was a person walking down the street, and I asked him if he wanted to ride. I was heading his way, and he sat on this back, and then we talked about it, that I told him the 485 limit of weight on this bike, and then he told me that he weighs 225 pounds and I weigh 185. So I run him about 3 miles. He was facing backwards, of course, but I told him the little story about the capacity of this bike. He said, that's fantastic. So again, my hat's off to HJM. You know, I just figured with all of the bikes that I build, I needed something that could take the punishment that I do. Sometimes I'll get out there and I go, okay, how old am I tonight? Am I 13 years old or am I 14 years old? And that would depend on if I'm going into the grass or if I'm going into a path down through the woods or whatever. Because I tell you, I've taken this thing to some places that if those handlebars can fit, then the bike will fit. And that's one thing to know, that if you can get through here with this handlebars and the mirrors, the bike will go through if you're looking at a path. So, you know, you have to be very gingerly with it. But yes, handlebars are wider than the back. So I have taken this thing to a couple of questionable places. And I've got I've had it up to about 6 inches worth of sand. It did that pretty good. Okay, well anyway, I'm going to be adding to this video. All right, later.